Jeff, you had a really successful exit. You got all the answers right. Like everything is great.
At one point, we figured something out. And so I lean over with my phone to my wife, and she looks at it, and she looks at me, and she's like, "Great. Can you go inside and change Rhett's diaper?"
That's how you know you married a good woman.
I did.
Right?
It really is. And I asked a pastor at our church, I'm like, "Can you pray for clarity for me?" And he was like, "How about I pray for courage for you?"
What is it like to sell your company for multi-millions of dollars? To see that bank account balance just change when you swipe down? Is it just fanfare? Does everyone come out and tell you how great you are? For Jeff Corder, it wasn't exactly that. And that's what I loved about this interview, because Jeff talked about how he stayed grounded in the Lord at every step of his startup journey, all the way from, not having any money in the bank account to big exit. Stay tuned for this episode. I'm Mike Sudik. This is Faith in Tech. Jeff, how's it going?
Hi, good, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you here. So I have Jeff Corder here, who's a founder in Grand Rapids, Michigan, has become a friend of mine the last couple of years. But Jeff, you had a really successful exit. So you got everything figured out, right? Like you got all the answers right. Like everything is great.
At one point, we figured something out.
Yeah, that's right.
I know I like to say that we made 51% good decisions at the end.
That's right. I like that.
And here we are, right?
That's right.
Successful exit, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit, just, this podcast is a Faith in Tech podcast, but like most people, it's like faith is integral to what you're doing. Even if you're not, you were building tools for hunters, sportsmen, and that wasn't necessarily apt to serve ministry. But what you were doing and how you're making decisions, you had a lens of your faith. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. But tell me a little bit about. Tell me, why don't we go to the exit? Tell me about after you get after everything cleared, tell me about how you felt after that. Like check clears, okay, we got it. There's no, this could go bad or something. Tell me a little bit about where you're at mentally and.
Yeah. It's interesting because you always think of the exit and you're like, you have ideas of what that would be like. Mm-hmm. And probably can guarantee you it's not any of those ideas in some variation. I specifically remember the 4 months, 6 months preceding that is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Is this going to close? All the details, everything that needs to happen.
Yeah.
The actual day of the exit was relatively simple.
Yeah.
I remember, we were on a call. I think there was 15 lawyers on the call, right? Yeah. And they did this round robin, make sure everything's closed around it.
Yeah.
And you kind of give your consent. And,
it's like the final check off.
It is. It's kind of everything that you've done the several months before.
Yeah.
Our deal wasn't super contingent on a lot of things post, and so it was maybe a little more cleaner, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of knows what they have when it closes.
Yeah.
But I remember I was nervous. Never done it before, right?
Yeah.
So I was nervous. Is it gonna what's it gonna be like? Is it gonna be? And I had my phone out and I was taking it and I was literally in the room with some of my other coworkers. We were still in the garage, right?
Yeah.
The startup garage.
Yeah.
So this is not Jeff in some office, I'm in the garage.
Yeah.
I'm on speakerphone on my cell phone, and this is kind of how it went down. But I remember it was probably 10, 15 minute call. Everybody consented, went around, hung up, and I just sat there and I'm kind of breathing. And I'm like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people were clapping and they understood what happened. And I remember I went home that night and we had some friends that were going to come over anyway. And you're always is this real? Did that happen?
Yeah.
And I was refreshing. Just, to be honest, is money gonna hit my bank account?
Yeah.
Am I gonna get there's a payment coordinator, and I'm is that all going out?
Yeah.
Because we all said it would, but what's gonna happen?
Did they just cheat me? It's they're gone.
Well, you just don't know. You just haven't experienced it before.
Yeah.
And I remember it was actually kind of funny, is because we were talking with them. My kids are running around. and the neighbors' kids were running around. It was kind of crazy. We're in the driveway, and I'm standing there with my wife.
Yeah.
And I see the confirmation of kind of the major things went through.
Yeah.
And we were like mid-conversation, and so I like lean over with my phone to my wife.
Yeah.
And I just pulled the screen that mattered.
Yeah.
And I like just like nonchalantly like showed her. Yeah.
Like,
and she like looks at it, and she looks at me, and she's like, "Great. Can you go inside and change Rhett's diaper?" In one sentence. It's like the same sentence, right? And I like...
that's how you know you married a good woman.
It is.
Right?
Like,
you know.
It really is. And, you know, she was happy, but like for her, it wasn't always about like for me, I'm like, I'm inside, I'm like, this is like my career's worth of whatever, you know? And, but like, so in that same moment, it was good, but it also like grounded me in a way that like I needed to know that was there, and that was super important. And so like, you know, did I expect, you know, everybody from behind the house to come out and the band play and like, let's go take our, you know, our lap around the neighborhood? No, but like, it was a perfect moment. And so I think that, you know, yes, you talk about like how faith plays into that. And I think, you know, part of the startup journey is you're going to have like all these highs and lows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're going to be high. And it could be like, I remember like 3 years prior, driving home from something and the bank hit zero.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what aren't we going to do?
Yeah.
And then contrast that with, you know,
the exit.
Everybody's successful, and you know, you high five and everybody, but you kind of got to learn that like God is faithful in the highs and lows, and it kind of like makes you play somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
To where like the goodness of God is just like that thread of stableness.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say you don't get as high on the highs and you don't get as low on the lows. But it's just like they have a little bit less meaning in themselves. And it's it's more of like it learns to be a thread of gratefulness over time.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Lord, this is hard. I don't get it. But like, I'm not going to go to the rock bottom, because I know that like, you're faithful in these, and I'm going to learn something. And even if it is the worst thing for the company, it's still going to be okay because you're on the throne, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then in the highs, it's like, Lord, thank you for this opportunity. Like at my new company last week, we just landed our biggest client ever.
Yeah.
And we were all in the same room when we got the email, and like we're high-fiving and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's this thread that is like, that's awesome, but that's also not, the greatest thing in the world, and it's not where joy and happiness comes from. Although it's like it's a great win for us, and like, just to like experience God being faithful in all those things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you say like faith in tech, or faith in the work, just faith in general.
Yeah.
But he just carries you through that. And I think in my world, it's been in venture tech, and maybe like the highs and lows are a little higher and faster and, like fairly significant. And I feel like you probably get about 15 years worth of business and about 5 years in a venture-backed business.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about, you were saying like faith in life or faith in business, but faith in tech specifically it is high stakes, like the VC, like they want to see the unicorn, they want to see all this stuff. So in a sense, it is exaggerated, where there is more faith put in that like venture to succeed, or more excitement in like the exit and all of that, because it's just everything is like exaggerated.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the feeling, or
it's the industry. Like
it is.
It's the culture.
Yep.
So tell me about, I'd like to unpack a little bit of the notion of like your identity being wrapped up in your startup. So you your background was actually in film production. You had a film production company. You built this thing on the side to, I think it was basically to scratch your own itch, and then turned it into a startup. So then tell me about how did you craft your identity, maybe good or bad, around the startup, and maybe throughout that journey? Or was that never a struggle? Like, because it's like, hey, I'm Jeff, the film production guy. I'm putting words in your mouth right now, by the way. It's like you can kind of, that's a little bit of identity is around that, and then you kind of pivot into startup becomes consuming, and you're kind of chasing an exit maybe, or you're chasing growth. And was that a struggle for you in those hard times? Like, hey, this is like when you go through that lull and you're like, hey, wait, I kind of put a lot of my faith into this. Again, that's just me putting words in your mouth, like, as maybe I would maybe feel that way being in your shoes, right? Like, yeah. Good or bad, mostly bad in that sense. Like,
just do this interview for me. No, I'll kind of like tell you some thoughts on that. When the reason I would say why that particular company made sense for me. Yeah. Our family grew up, we love the outdoors. Just the amount of relationships and bonding we've had through outdoor adventures, deeply in our family and my soul, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at everything that I did in the film world too, film production. I was a director of photography and for 10 plus years. Like, I really enjoyed telling stories and using the craft of that.
Yeah.
And then, like, I went to school for computer science. So, like, I could also, probably the one thing that made me dangerous is, like, I could actually go do it.
Right.
Because a lot of people have ideas and you either, like, waste all your money trying to have someone else do it. And so I'd say, like, my competitive advantage was that I could code it.
Yeah,
right?
you just didn't need to go
stay up till 1 a.m. every day and you get your product. And so I would say when it comes to identity, like, those kind of like God-given things in my life, like, really brought me to this opportunity, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
In that, like, the best of Jeff, I think, was right for this company, in a good way. Now, when I think of, like, identity, though, that, like, it got off in tangents in different ways once that became, like, hey, you're a startup, you're the founder of this thing, you're a CEO.
Which are all expectations then, right?
Yeah, they're all expectations, but then they become part of your actual, you're in it now, and this is the identity that you have in the venture space. Yeah. In the LinkedIn world, right? Like, you have this profile and you have these things that are expected of you. And I think, the things that I would say that brought that south was thinking I had to be an identity in all places, in all things, i.e., like, I had to be the best of this. I had to embody this. I had to embody this. And instead of having weaknesses that I was okay with and verbalizing, I had to kind of be strong in everything. Yeah. And, like, whereas opposed, like, the scripture would say, like, where you're weak, I'm strong. Yeah. And the idea of, like, being publicly weak in areas. Yeah. And, like, bringing that to your board and saying, like, hey, I'm terrible in this. Yeah. Like, I ran horrible board meetings to begin with. Yeah. And, like, there's, like, shame that comes with that. And I would get, like, I know more than them. Or, like, you'd feel like they're not bringing value or something to me. And then that justifies why you're at, instead of just saying, like, I'm really not that good. And And the more, to be honest, the more they get older, I'm like, people really kind of aren't that good. Like I mean, you've learned some skills. I mean, kind of, right? Like we kind of like tend to mess things up a lot, right?
Yeah. People aren't perfect, is what you're saying.
Aren't perfect, yeah. And obviously, like God gives us talent and skills and things that benefit the world, right?
But what you were saying is that you were trying to be like good in all areas, and you're like, that's kind of, you're saying as I get older, people aren't that good, but you're saying that they're not like experts in all those areas. Like they might excel in certain areas like that, and that's more of a realistic perspective. Yeah,
and though, like, our goodness, our righteousness, if we hold that as like our badge, that also can be not right. To where like, I just see like people that are ahead of me that I like respect, and a lot of my mentors, they kind of wear a badge of gratefulness to God for like all things.
Yeah.
And when the fame, the whatever it is, that the glory that comes on man, like it seems like they're better, like they reflect that more. And the more mature maybe they get in their faith walk, the more they try to be a reflection of deflect that back to God.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I appreciate that. You know, it was a lot of work, but you know, and I guess that's what I'm kind of referring to by like, we're not that good, that like God gives us skills and he wants us to humbly serve him. And hopefully we do that. But a lot of times we mess up, and the more that we rely on his strength, honestly, the better the outcome.
Yeah. But that's counter to like tech culture, where you have to have an ambitious, some audacious vision that you're chasing, and you have to just power through and figure it out, and you got to have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a caricature of what the industry is. So that's counter to, so you have to put on that facade. You got to just charge through and arrogantly and hubris, you know, to kind of march through. So it's counter to kind of what you're saying on some level. But you gave a talk probably 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, and one of your slides was like the Holy Spirit is the best guide or something. And I think I took a picture of it. I think I sent it to you, or I don't remember. But tell me a little bit about that, because that is, when you talk about audacious vision or something, you can power through. You can either pull yourself up by your bootstraps and say, I'm going to just power through this on my own strength. Or if you're saying, hey, the Holy Spirit's kind of guiding me, and this is where I think is going. Not that your startup is like ordained and, you know, but it's like, if I'm trusting in the Lord that this is the next step, I trust that he's also going to give me the strength or the knowledge or the advisors or whatever to just keep marching down this path. I'm not doing it out of my own like ambition or pride or something of that nature.
Yeah. I look to the story of Joshua and Caleb in instances like this, right? You know, we can take there's giants in the land, and everybody's like, I know, let's not go.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, there's giants in the land, but God is with us. Like, we can do this.
Yeah.
And I would imagine they got there not because they were arrogant, but because they had such God confidence. And they probably listened to the Spirit in their own lives.
Yeah.
And so I kind of see that as, and you look in the Bible in all sorts of places, like it's people hear by faith. There's a lot that has to do with faith.
Yeah.
Right? And it takes somebody to continually encourage and point back to that, and to have high faith, to do things that require high faith.
Yeah.
And I think of Daniel and Joshua and Caleb, all these like pictures of faith and confidence in God in the Bible despite consequences. And I think it's a picture of these guys had commitments. They had probably times of like true devotion over long periods of time that give them the confidence to be a leader and say like, we don't know how this is going to pan out, but like, I'm going to see what there is that needs to be seen, and in faith move towards that.
Yeah.
And someone does need to say that, and that does take courage. A lot of times I was going through something one time, and I asked a pastor at our church, I'm like, can you pray for clarity for me?
Yeah.
And he was like, how about I pray for courage for you? And I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, that's an interesting distinction, right?
Yeah.
And what he's trying to say is, like, you're not going to always see.
Yeah.
But, like, trusting in God and, like, taking the next step that's why it's called faith. And, like, that takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. And
which clarity sometimes is like a Christianese word. I'm not trying to dog you back because I've done the same thing, but it's like clarity is like just give me the roadmap, Lord, and I'll handle it, right? Just all the steps.
It's like we always want to see so much, and I think it's often why God gives us the light at our feet. It's like, no, we kind of just need the light to see the next step.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get a floodlight flash, right? Like we'll get a glimpse of what it is, and we need that. And I think, like, in terms of, like, that's why, God always gives us the glimpse. He says he puts eternity in the hearts of men, right? Because we need that. We need to see, like, have that vision of what perfection looks like. But, like, each day it's hard, and you can't lose sight of that. But often you're given, like, a flashlight at your feet and saying, no, trust me in the next one.
Yeah.
Trust me in the next one. And
which you said, you've found a lot of wisdom in, like, with mentors that are kind of like, as they get older, they have a different perspective on things. I was thinking about, in the Bible, when they talk about, they're often retelling the ways that the Lord's been faithful. That the God that brought us out of, Egypt and like sustain us in the wilderness, like they'll kind of do these monologues where it's like talking about that, right? In the same way, when you're talking to an older, let's say, business person that is a Christian that would say, yeah, I don't necessarily have it all figured out, but let me just tell you the stories about how the Lord kind of provided in ways that were like way outside of what I would have thought and what my conclusion would have been, so they're talking from a point of confidence that is not in themselves, which is kind of like, as a young person, what you seek, you're like, hey, let me go in an inappropriate way. Like in younger years, like you want to find someone that's like confident and self-assured. It's like, yeah, how do I get like that? Which is really confidence in themselves. Like that's all the business gurus of the world. Right.
Yeah.
To whereas like wise counsel that are biblical counsel is like, I don't really have all the answers, but let me tell you how the Lord's worked and how he's been faithful in ways that I didn't even think about, right? And it's just interesting because that's it, there's still a confidence factor, but it's not in themselves. It's in just the faith, which you're just saying,
No, I fully resonate with that. And I don't know. I just always sometimes you look back, you're like, man, I was so dumb back then.
Yeah.
But you're always like, I'll think of that of right now, 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
And like, that God's always working on our hearts and moving them in line with the Spirit. And I think of the word pacing that's been modeled for me, where you have people ahead of you, you have people next to you, and you have people behind you in those three positions in your life.
Yeah.
And I think both in tech and in my faith, like in tech, I had to have like, what is an exit? How do you do it? How do you move a company and to sell it? Like, how do you package it up? And so I had to, like, literally when we exited, I hired somebody to coach me as I was doing it, because like, I don't want to make like things that everybody knows you shouldn't make, but And so I hired someone and say, like, you need to walk by me and make sure I don't mess this thing up.
Yeah.
And then in my personal life, I've always had those, which I'm so grateful for. And just like, hey, what are the next problems what are the next landmines I'm probably going to be stepping in?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe I'll still step in them, but like maybe they won't like blow off my whole foot,
Right.
And so I think, thinking through pacing in your life, having someone in front of you, walking alongside of you, but then also like, who needs to be brought on? Like, yes, we've had a successful exit.
Yeah.
Who can I now like say, hey, here's some thoughts on this stuff. We've lived it once. I'm not an expert, but here's some thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that probably is good in both just the tangible things you'll need for your ventures, and then more in the spiritual realm, more of like a personal mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really wise. I think the pacing with like running or something. Yeah. You want to have someone that's just ahead of you that you're kind of like aspiring to be.
Running's not a great analogy for me.
You're like, no, I'm not good on the running.
That's my wife.
You're like, no.
Jeff, you tried that like for 2 months and you stop every time. Like, I know, I hate just running.
Oh man. Yeah, it's funny because there's they get the 37 Signals guys, Jason Fried, and David Heinemeier Hansen. I don't know if you know those guys, but one of the things that Jason Fried had says was like, you should always talk to someone that's like just done what you did. Like there's all this business advice that's going around by like that's comparing like what does Elon Musk do for this or Jeff Bezos or whatever, and it's like that's a totally different world, know. And so from a faith perspective, I think that's wise too because they have to have a perspective that's like they understand and are not too far removed from the steps that you're at, you know, which I think is really important.
No, I think that's good. And it's kind of like everybody wants to get to a position and then kind of be an advisor, but you kind of got to be careful because there's only so many thoughts you can get from like advisors that are way ahead of you.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. It's like, no, I kind of need like, here's where I'm at, some real tangible thoughts on this piece.
Yeah.
And bringing in, even if they're kind of like spot advisors.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, I would say mentors or more long-term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you were saying, hey, I'm going through this big event, which was an exit, and you're saying, hey, I'm working with someone that can help me navigate that.
Yeah,
So
it was his fourth exit, and I'm like, it's like old hat for him, and I'm great.
Yeah, help me avoid the landmines. Yeah, exactly.
Avoid the landmines. That's right.
Yeah. Well, it's like you would do like pre-marriage counseling or something like that, right? Like in the faith sphere, it's like, okay, here, what are we doing that we can avoid these like big mistakes, I feel like we should hit on AI.
Let's go, AI. Let's just dive in.
So tell me what you're up to now, though. Like, tell me your journey from post exit to like next venture. What was the journey there from a faith standpoint? Like, what was the Lord telling you to do?
So after we exited, I stayed on and I worked for 2 years in the company that acquired us. Actually, I kind of made it a personal commitment to like give it my best.
Yeah.
Right. Not just like, hey, this is my phase out job.
Yeah.
So I would say like I substantially like tried to give it my best.
Yeah.
And I did. Like I ended up being head over product and tech for the whole parent company. So like there's a lot of opportunity there. But after that, I spent 2 years in that role. And then interesting turn of events, talk about unknowing the future, is like 2 days after I stopped that role, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer.
Yeah.
And that one knocks you in the face, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think like as far as I didn't know a medical journey would be ahead of me. I would say very fortunate, when you throw that word around, there's a lot of implications of it. And I think I was spared from a lot of the, the chemo and some of the more intense things. Mm-hmm. Ended up having a surgery that, Lord willing, took care of it.
Yeah.
But that was 6 months of like very hard, challenging pieces where I would say I was like, you exit and you're like and the high, right? And the high. And then like I think the Lord was really using that time to make me just it was a forcing function to say like nope, now we're gonna recover.
Yeah.
And honestly, like during that time, I did a lot of thought on what just happened with this company in these last 10 years of my life. And it was kind of fast paced and kind of the crown jewel of most entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple moments when I was very broken, just with the weight of that diagnosis, but also just like rethinking, retooling, seeking the Lord in those times. They were special times though. I mean, like you're kind of broken, but like a very deep, very, couple instances, especially after my recovery. I remember I was sitting there and I was in this basement, or like a bedroom in the basement, because had to be like still for a long time after like you have a surgery like that. And I remember it was during COVID. My whole family had COVID, so I'm like sitting down there in the basement trying to like quarantine after this like major, just a super weird whole thing. But then I like started doing some mentoring with some other people that were coming up in like the startup space, and all the stuff I'd learned, I'd kept notes on. Yeah. And so I ended up compiling that, and then I'm like, man, I could probably write some stuff. Yeah. On how to like vet ideas, because that's most of what I did previously, and then in the 2 years that I was in this position after we got sold, that was kind of my role in a product technology role. I did a lot of like, hey, should we do this, that, or the other? And so I kind of created this grid framework of how to vet ideas. Yeah. And that kind of became the basis of a book that I wrote during that time. Yeah. So that 6 months that I'm kind of down and out, I spent that time, said, all right, I'm going to put it together in a book. Mm-hmm. Not thinking or aspiring to do anything or be an author, or,
it's almost like therapeutic though.
It kind of was,
go through that exercise. Yeah.
And honestly, during the exercise, like I didn't realize how much can come out. Like I learned probably 60% of what I was going to write while I was in the writing process.
Yeah. You're extracting it.
It from experience and all this stuff. And so that was kind of like a cool journey. To date, it's not published yet, but I'm through the second edit with an actual editor. So it's like fun to see that come to fruition. Yeah. And then during this time, there was a company that I had invested in and softly advised, I would say. Mm-hmm. And they came up to a new round of funding where they kind of were at where we were at, and they needed someone that had been there before. Yeah. So they approached me to be the CEO of their company, a smaller company. There's 6 people in the forestry software industry. And I just look at my whole experience at HuntWise, and I'm like, man, who knows people that are like loggers and truckers that have developed SaaS software, and just that whole experience drove me to be like, this is the next spot for me. Yeah. And it was funny in the grid. And what I wrote about, I created 5 steps of how to think through new ideas. Yeah. And so I'm like, if I wrote about it, I got to try it. Yeah. Like for me, right?
Yeah. Let's put this into action.
And so I tried to acquire 2 businesses prior, and they both fell through. And so I ended up like, all right, I'm going to put 10 things on the board, all the things that I had been doing, a few consulting things, some of these acquisitions that didn't work out. And I'm going to run it through my grid. And this current place that I'm at, Waldo, it was one of the 2 things that were all green across the board.
That's awesome.
One of them was to write the book, and the other one was
take this job.
And I wasn't trying to like force fit the thing. And so I ended up taking this job, and it's a work in progress. And I really do like it though. And I think part of my focus is understanding that like and I said this on my first day that I was there. I said the process is the product, and I did not make that up.
Yeah.
I'm borrowing that.
Yeah.
I don't even know who said it, but someone besides me said it,
Yeah.
right? And so there's things that I brought or am bringing, I think, that were different than if I hadn't been through all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that we have to go do big things, and the timeline has to be fairly fast.
Yeah.
But it's not in the wake of people, right? That
Yeah.
like people deeply matter. And bringing the faith component into it is like how you do things matter, and it's not the ultimate goal. Is not just like another exit, right?
Yeah.
And just the renewed framing, I think, allows me to be less uptight about all the things that need to happen.
Yeah.
And I find myself like praying more,
Mm-hmm.
like, God, here's another one.
Yeah.
You did it a lot of times before.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like literally today, we're raising another round of funding, and I have to account for a few more people buying in, and I'm like, I don't know where they're going to come from right now.
Yeah.
But like instead of losing sleep and all these things that I probably did on round one, I'm like, I'll probably spend more time in the Word and praying
Yeah.
about it. And He's faithful to open a door or close doors. I still work hard. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like I like working.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
But the angst and the needing to rely on yourself for a solution,
Yeah.
you know, is not there. Right?
And back to your
I
identity
understand.
question,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
if it all falls through, my identity is wrapped up in who God is, and being a son of His, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, just reflecting on that, it just like takes the pressure off of doing so much. So I find like some of my prayers are more intentional and more celebrating God and saying like, here's who you are,
Yeah.
instead of just like, here's the 10 things for my business that are going wrong
That I need done.
and
right
that I
now.
need to, yeah. And I just like, you just celebrate in who God is.
Yeah.
And that's fun. It's a fun, and by no means, you know, a stagnant spot where like I'm there, I did it. And I think about that often.
Yeah.
And I think gratefulness enters your heart more. And even with, we have 4 kids, 2, 4, 6, 8 right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a startup at home.
That is a
And
startup.
I'm
Yeah.
preaching to the choir because
Yeah.
I know where your family is at too.
But any number of young kids is a startup. Man.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I often think too of like, I'm so grateful for the spot we're in. But even if all the things weren't good too, that like
Yeah.
there's a deep, deep gratefulness that God has been faithful. And I think about that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff, for sharing your heart and your story. And it was greatly encouraging to me. I'm sure it will be for a lot of people. But, that's, I think, getting to the meat of that and like the lessons you've learned, I think is important. It's not about the business strategies. It's not about all that stuff. It's like what, at the end of the day, where was the alignment with your faith in your journey, and how can people get closer to that? I'm not trying to say you've arrived, but it's a constant iteration. That's what I found. It's like sometimes you get closer, sometimes you get further away, closer, but you want to be iterating towards alignment with the Lord.
That is a good way of putting it.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Boom.